It's the Practical Prayer Podcast pre-show on New Thought Media Network. Back after a week of hiatus. Hey, Carol.
Hi, I'm glad you're back.
I'm glad to be back. It was a wonderful week at Unity Village. Inspiring, uplifting, and exhausting, because I do a lot. But it was absolutely spectacular.
Wonderful. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
It
I know
was,
you would.
it was, yeah, and just some of the people who were there speaking were amazing. We had Reverend Dr. Sheila McKeithen, who's, among other things, the president of the Universal Foundation for Better Living.
Mm-hmm.
And she came in, and she's actually lives in Jamaica. She's from Florida. And she was talking about a sustainable planet. Living healthy, happy, etc. on a sustainable planet. And she brought in an associate minister of hers, who she had just finished training, who's like a UN official. So we were actually able to speak authoritatively about this and not just from the spiritual perspective. That was pretty cool.
And I can hear these online, right?
They will be. There was actually a closed event by registration, but at some point the recordings will be made available. Real soon now, courtesy of New Thought Media Network. By the way, we're on New Thought Media Network recording the Practical Prayer Podcast right now. Thank you to those who are joining in, either live on the broadcast now through your favorite channel of social media, or watching the recordings later, which a lot of people prefer doing. And if you have a question or comment or some such, and you want to put that in, then you can go ahead and send us a note. Oh, somebody went and turned the thing off. Now I have no idea where Wait, there it is. BeTheLight.com. be-the-light.com. Like it says, right under Carol there. That's the website. So you can put something into the chat here, or you can go to the website and find the little section on practical prayer and put in a comment or a question or a prayer request or a suggestion there, and we will respond to it as well. The podcast will make its way through podcast production land and be on the air as an audio-only podcast in a week or so. Enough of that. What did I miss when I was away?
Well, a lot.
I'm not surprised.
A lot.
Any details?
No, but actually, that just leads us right into. I found my notes, by the way.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I figured.
Yeah. And it leads us right into that. What did you miss? So I was, I'm just like I'm talking to people all the time, or I'm on a podcast or something. So I can't remember always where it was, but I'll make these notes so I can get back to Practical Prayer Podcast and just, talk about it here. So evolution. And the subject was evolving consciousness. I think that's what the title was, something like that. And the person made a very interesting statement. They said that evolution of the culture, so forth, is happening. And, people are resisting certain kinds of spiritual changes in consciousness. They're resisting it.
You
And
think?
this person said, change is happening anyway. It's not beginning. Oh yeah. So I did something on the shift. That's what it was. And they said things are changing anyway, and it's good to try to keep up with the change, but it doesn't really matter. You're kind of going to get left behind. And I thought about that I thought about that in a lot of ways, because AI is just crazy taking over, or everywhere. I won't say taking over. I'll say it's just everywhere. And it's I say that in with a smile. It's a good thing. So I thought about that, and I said, now, when mankind physically went through a change, like that picture you see of where man was bent over and then evolution happened and finally
Yeah.
standing up straight. Okay. So whether man was on board with it or not. It just happened. And I thought, you know what? That I never had a desire to make people think anything or convince them. I'll just share it with you, right? And change is going to happen. So it's kind of up to you whether you want to flow with the changes and do the work, or I hate to say it like this, get left behind. I don't know if you get left behind. You're just not up with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and people, I think people are not left behind so much as they complain about having to keep up.
People don't always keep up. And this brings us to the other point. Are you writing this down? Because you, so we have to talk about all this. All
We're
right.
just talking about it
So
all again as soon as we start the episode.
yeah, but you're gonna remember where we were.
No, so let's go ahead and start the episode so we don't make it any more difficult for ourselves than we need to.
All right. All right.
All right, on your mark, get set podcast.
A practical prayer is a prayer that works.
These discussions between Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence dive into the details of how it works and how to work it.
Reverend Bill is a New Thought minister and the author of Practical Prayer for Real Results.
Your new life begins with a new thought.
Carol Lawrence is on a spiritual quest, finding the New Thought teaching after decades on the pulpit in 3 different traditional denominations.
I've got some questions.
Together, they're exploring the philosophy and activities that come together from many of the world's religions to create the practical spirituality that is New Thought.
Welcome to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony. Back
You have-
from like a
I'm
ways
back
off.
from a week at the Anton Retreat, the affiliated New Thought Network retreat, which was at Unity Village last week, and all ready for you to ask another one of your insightful questions or bring up one of your insightful topics.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to give a shout out. We got a lovely donation from actually a practitioner at the Centers for Spiritual Living who is filled and fed by the podcast and just wanted to say thank you. So thank you right back, and it's nice to know that the work is going appreciated. So
Very much appreciated. So
Yeah.
very encouraging.
yeah. So you want to talk about evolution or evolving consciousness?
Yes. Well, it was big. You know, we were talking about it in the pre-show.
Mm-hmm.
And so here's the thing. Evolution happens, whether you're ready for it, whether you like, you don't get to vote. It's just like happens. And there's just things that happen in life. And I kind of marvel at the resistance that I experience from folks sometime with not wanting to um, go with the change. I'll put it like that. And that's really nothing new, right? So because people didn't want to deal with computers and whatever have you, and so now it's the wind things and solar panels. Everybody's got an opinion, and I find myself saying, okay, look, let me look at this. If it's not going to change, let me figure out how I can adjust myself to whatever is not going to change. But I'm finding so much resistance in conversations about spiritual evolution and so forth. This is such a big topic. So the saying is, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yep.
Likewise, I think when the teacher is ready, the student will appear. So it's like no pushing or forcing anybody to understand anything, in terms of evolving consciousness and all that. The things are going to change. They are changing. And
They
so,
do. They are changing, they have changed, and they continue to change.
And it's not going to, no matter how much you protest, it is not going to be the same, So what's I don't know. I was going to ask a stupid question, like, why do people fight it? Um, but that's just, it just changes.
Yeah,
And,
well,
and the example I gave you back in the pre-show was how a man was like bent over, and you see that picture. Then he was upright until he was
yeah,
completely upright. I don't think he had a vote in the evolution of the human.
right. Barbara
We
Marx
don't.
Hubbard used to call it the ever upward spiral. It's like, and we're
Yes.
moving on that ever upward spiral, whether we want to or not.
Hmm.
The interesting thing is that, back in the good old days, the argument, the disagreement was between the people who believed in evolution and the people who believed in creation. And they're insisting that, no, Genesis is the creation story and that's the way everything came into being. God said, let there be, and there was. Okay, fine. We'll leave aside the way that we can observe evolution happening in our own lives. Right after that beginning story, as I recall, and I'm starting to go back and misread scripture because I'm not reading it the way people tell me how. I'm actually reading what's written down there and comparing it to other versions. Weren't there a whole bunch of begats right after that? That this guy begat that guy, begat whatever, and it's like 40 generations of begats?
Yeah, you're a little bit further down the road, but you're good. Go ahead.
What do you think all that begatting is about? That is evolution. That's one thing growing from another thing growing from, and tracing our lineage back. And every step along the way, there's growth, there's change, there's expansion.
Yes, exactly. So I don't want to like be mean and say, "Well, why fight it?" But at, at every point in our history of humankind, there has been evolution, and
Yeah,
no matter how you protest it, it is because it is supposed to be. We're not supposed to stay the same. Let's just look at AI that's got a lot of people all shook up. You know, that I looked at it for a second and I thought, okay, is this going to, how is this going to best with what I do? And I
right.
looked at it and I thought, wait a minute, wait a minute. I wrote sermons for 30 years, more than that, before there ever was an AI. And I will continue to write, you know, right from here. So I'm not afraid of it. It's not going to put me out of business. As a matter of fact, it's going to help me because I told you I never knew how to title sermons. I was always terrible at that. So I just explained to AI what my point is. Give me a title for
And
whatever it is. I said,
right.
well, this could work. Why
Yep.
fight?
And for myself, I like to give AI my story and say, give me 5 titles. And then I
Okay.
get to choose which of the titles I particularly like. Yeah, I've been exposed. There were a bunch of people at the event that I was at last week were enamored with or talking about AI. And so I've been doing a little bit more with it. And AI is wonderful because it will write something or create something that seems pretty reasonable and seems pretty familiar. And that's because AI is actually a very, very well read parrot. The large language
Mm.
model has digested huge amounts of stuff. When you ask it a question, it will give you a typical answer.
Mm-hmm.
So what I like to do is some people, say they give AI a prompt and they look at what comes back and say, yeah, this is right. But it's not that it's right. It's just people have been saying that forever, and it's just summarizing your question with all of the best answers that have ever been given because they've all been ranked. What I look for,
Yes.
what I look for is there anything new?
Okay. So that takes me to something else along that same line, right? The Bible said there's nothing new under the sun. So when I was younger and I read that, I had no clue what it meant. But now, after being around the sun a few times, there, man, there is nothing new under the sun. It really isn't. It's like I'm thinking about Ike. He said, Reverend Ike said something that when early on, when I first, kind of peeped into New Thought, he said, God moves in you, through you, and as you. I will
Mm-hmm.
never forget the moment that I read that. It was a life changing moment for me. And I thought, well, yeah, now wait a minute. Then what I'm getting is from that which God said already a long time ago through Mr. Emerson or somebody else, right? So this is cool. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just God. It's what God says in so many different ways. So
Yeah.
whoever's listening can hear it, right?
Yeah. And nothing new under the sun does not include understanding. We can have a new understanding of something that's been going on for a long time. Scientists spend a lot of energy understanding the natural laws of the universe because that's what we're working with. And
Mm.
even before the airplane was invented, before there was any ability for people to fly, all the laws of aerodynamics already existed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nothing new under the sun. Same thing with ballistics. If you fire a missile from here to there, it's going to follow a particular path. It's going to obey the laws of physics. And gravity is going to work the same way that it always has. And everything works according to principle. That is the nothing new under the sun. Can we have a different idea? Can we say, hey, I have an idea for making a spaceship, and let's go ahead and use the materials that we've developed and the things that we've learned how to make and manufacture and create and process and assemble and create something new that way? Yeah, but that's not under the sun.
It's
Sun
yeah.
is really far away.
And listen, it to me it still works. There's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new in the human experience because it's infinite intelligence and knowledge that has been there. We use it differently, yes. So there goes the point of the argument. We are living in a different culture now. Things are different. People think different. There's different things available to us, so we're reacting to things differently. And all of this that was already there is still here for us to, we're not changing it necessarily, we're
No.
adapting it
And
to,
understanding it and working with it differently, yeah.
yeah, because can you imagine if everything stayed the same? I mean, I'm thinking of when I was growing up, it was pretty cool, but that's because I didn't know. But listen, I remember when the mall, I remember the blue laws. And I don't know if they had it all over the country, but in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, if you opened your store on Sunday, you got a fine from somewhere.
Right.
So stores were closed. Okay, then they built these malls. And what's that thing down at the 10th and Market in Philadelphia? The gallery.
The gallery mall, yeah.
Yeah, and then there was Granite Run and the different ones. And the subject for sermons for the longest time was the sin of the malls and nobody's coming to church. And I'm thinking, you know what? Things have changed. So you can't do church in a satisfactory way on Sunday like you used to. People are not going to not go to the malls. This is a wonderful thing. So, hey, I'll see you on Monday, Tuesday. Open the door. And man, I could never get, even back then. It just seems simple to me, right? Go with the flow. And I'm thinking, like, this is God coming up with new ideas and new stuff for us to try. Why fight it?
Yeah. If the only reason people are going to church is because the mall isn't open, really?
Well, I mean, okay.
Shouldn't there be a slightly more compelling reason to go to church? Like,
Yeah,
I want to be at church, not there's nothing else to do?
oh, come on now. You know that was a reason that a lot of people, what else was there to do in life back in the old days?
Sleep in.
You couldn't sleep. You couldn't sleep in. You weren't going to get your prayers answered. You had
No.
to be
That's
at-
why you go to church. I get it.
Yeah,
I get
but-
it. But I don't think that. Yeah, so the blue laws came and went.
yeah, but it's like things are meant to change, right? God doesn't change necessarily. It's
Mhm.
you just know a different. You know more dimensions of God. Let's think of God as a creative person, individual, whatever. I don't
Creative
like that,
entity.
but-
There you go.
Okay, that's good. So you can't exhaust it. It just continues to unfold, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious. Like, don't stop here. You know, my mega thing, what I'm looking for might be in the next unfoldment. So let's get on with it.
Could be.
You know?
And the chances of it surprising God, pretty limited, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So I'm making a joke out of it, but it's not really, because a lot of people are really struggling with. It's really just information that is coming to people's awareness that has been there all along. You know, I was um, reading something by Napoleon Hill, and he wrote that wonderful book, Think and Grow Rich.
mhm.
But if you read it again between the lines, it was about a whole lot more than making money.
Mm-hmm.
Whole lot more.
Yeah, and making money is a side effect of an evolving consciousness. You know, a
Exactly.
prosperity consciousness turns up, it shows up as money, but it also shows up as influence and connections and love and relationships, and you know, is the good health and vitality because there's more money available, or is that part of the same process of the good showing up in life? Don't know.
Listen, hanging out with you, um, a- I learned so much, right? So I went back to that book. I said, whoa, Napoleon. Hey, you new thought rascal, you. Listen. So I'm not saying that he was sliding things in. I'm saying that, you know, it's all in there, along with Jim Rom, who, you know, there's complementary ideas. And I just thought of it. I heard you saying, there is but one. There's just the one. It's only one. So I'm thinking, I don't care how you say it. It still comes from the same source.
That's
So
right.
is that a problem? Is that a problem?
It is only a
Evolution?
problem if you want it to be a problem. If you're looking for a problem, you shall certainly find one. And if not, then it's not necessary. But how about that?
Well, that's how Wayne Dyer said something similar to that. He said, people look for things to be wrong and upset about. And that's a comfort zone, I think, you know, because you don't like change, so you can fight against change. That's a comfortable place to be, except you lose.
Well, yeah, there's a whole lot of, you know, side effects and consequences for all that sort of stuff. Let's take a break and then talk some more about evolving consciousness, evolution, and whatever that leads to. Are you ready to get results? Now, that's not a rhetorical question. Are you ready to get results? RUR2GR. That's actually the abbreviation for the steps in a practical prayer: recognition, unification, realization, gratitude, and release, with a couple of extra steps in there in case some doubt creeps in along the way. RUR2GR. This class is about the prayer technique that's common to all of the spiritual practices and religions in the most effective prayers that they have. And by effective, I mean that the prayer works. It actually creates a change in the experience of the person doing the prayer. It gets a result. We're going to begin with theory, and then we're going to take it into practice. By the end of the class, you will have your very own practical prayer that will help create transformation in your life.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony, who's been away on a wonderful, wonderful experience, and I jerked you right back into the reality of talking about hard stuff.
Well, yeah, the topic of the retreat was exploring next level consciousness, and then you dragged me into evolving consciousness. So it's like not that big of a change as far as I'm concerned. But a wonderful topic, because people like to push against stuff. You know, here's something that's happening, and so I can complain about it, I can argue with it, I can fight with it. And the way to deal with it on the level of consciousness is to say, well, this is what it is. This is what my experience has been up until now. Now, what do I want to have my next experience be? And it doesn't have to have anything to do with what's happened before. You know, if I've been having this experience of poverty and lack and challenge in my life, the next thing that happens is not, I'm going to get past the poverty. I'm not going to be impoverished. I'm not going to be broke. It's like, what does that look like and what does that feel like? Because the creative process is always working. And once I identify what I want to evolve into, then all manner of possibilities open up for me to make that happen. And that's where evolution and conscious evolution is happening. If I'm still having the thinking that I used to have, then I'm going to keep on having the experiences that I used to have, and then I'll be able to complain about it.
And when I was hearing you say that, it's really very individual, because while everything is changing around us very quickly too, by the way, and I think I'm still stuck on technological changes because I'm constantly going through these learning curves. But yes, back to back. But things are changing, but you can fight and not do it. But how, you said, how do I want to experience my life in a different way? Not just differently, but in a specific way that I might be wanting something to change. And so I got to stop for a minute and really think, how do I want that to look? And then shift into that, rather than think too much about the hard work and the impossibility of it, because it's possible, right? You can't say that my hope and dream is not possible.
Well, yeah, if we say my hope and dream is not possible, then in the same sentence we're saying this is what we want and claiming that we're never going to have it.
Exactly. You can't know. Do you know what I mean? You can't, and so you can't close the door on God. I use the word magic a lot because I like it.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of makes the point. Like God, in that space of freedom and allowing, to me, that's where the magic happens. So you can resist things if you wish, but you'll never experience the magic, the change.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
Yeah, we need to leave a little space for the magic to happen.
yeah.
Like, if it's got to happen exactly this way at exactly this time frame, and I'm going to be in control of how it's all going to happen, there's no room for something spontaneous or miraculous to show up, because we've got all the doors bolted, keeping the good
Yeah.
out.
So that, that was me, right? Because I would figure it out, and this
Mhm.
is, and then I thought, oh, you know what? I kind of like it the other way, because in experimenting with it, and I'll just be honest and use that word, experimenting with it, things started happening that I could not have imagined, and even recently, could not have imagined. And I'm thinking, why does my opinion matter? Let me get out.
Well, your opinion matters to you.
Yeah, but not as much as it did. Not as much as it did. I wanted
had-
something.
Yeah,
I
I had an
wanted
experience.
something.
I was preparing for my thesis, and actually there was a big project involved in proving scientifically that prayer works. And I had a prestigious primary investigator who was willing to work on the project with me. And so he was going to be, and his team were going to set up the methodology. And so what he really wanted to do is, I told him, it's prayer, and we're doing practical prayer, and we can pray for anything and create transformation in all sorts of different areas of life. And I gave him the 4 examples: health, wealth, love, and creativity. Health is all about our physical experience. Wealth is about our prosperity and enoughness. Love is all of our relationships, whether it's with our significant other or our family, or our coworkers. And work is about the way that we're sharing our gifts in the world, our creative expression. And he immediately wanted to divvy it up. So when we did the intake with somebody, we would put them into one of the categories. Okay, so this person is looking for prosperity. So we're going to put them into the prosperity lane, and we're going to do prosperity prayers, and we're going to track them for prosperity over a period of time. And I said, that's not going to work. And he said, well, why not? And I said, that's not going to work because when somebody comes in and they want a prayer for prosperity, and we do the prayer for prosperity, suddenly they have plenty of money. And the next week they come back and they say, I really like somebody to spend my time and money with. So I really need a relationship. And so we do the prayer for this wonderful relationship, and they got plenty of money in a relationship, and then suddenly somebody gets sick, and then it changes again. So if you try and isolate it for that, you're trying to control this infinite creative process, and it doesn't work because we are very fluid. And when we think that that evolving consciousness isn't there, no, I'm always going to be in the lane of needing a relationship. No, it's possible for that to completely change. That bad news, sad news story can change and go away and no longer be of concern anymore. And that's when you talk about evolution, it's things being different. So I remember when I was a kid, we had the TV, and there were like 4 channels that you could watch on TV. So you turn the TV on, there's nothing on this channel, this channel, this channel. You go through all of them, and sometimes you go through 2 or 3 times, and it's like there's nothing to watch. You turn the TV off, and you go read a book. Now, there's 9,000 channels of still nothing to watch. And if you don't want to watch it on TV, then you can look at it on YouTube, or you can go into somebody's really deep library. And now the goal is, how can I avoid spending another hour looking for something to watch without actually watching anything except the guide channel? It's a completely different problem.
Yeah.
It has evolved from a sense of limitation in one way, where we didn't have enough choices of what to watch, to now it's a limitation of I don't have the time or the resource to understand exactly what's available that's going to bring some joy into my life. I think that's evolution. Is it good? Is it bad? You get to make the call.
I think it's good. I do. I think evolution in itself is good. You have to figure out how to live within an evolving universe, an evolving culture, an evolving lifestyle. Everything is always changing anyway. So we make little adaptations in different ways. So, when the supermarket goes out of business over here, you got to go to another one, and everything is set up differently. And so you got to, the big thing when I moving from Philly to New Jersey is that in New Jersey, you can take the shopping cart out of the supermarket, right? And take your groceries straight to the car. Now, some people might laugh and think what are you talking about? But in Philly, it was such a chore to shop. Over here, now, what I see is, listen to this, people leave the shopping carts in the parking lot. They don't bother to, take it back. I take mine back. I don't care how cold it is, whatever. I take that thing back because I'm so grateful that I'm able to do it. Now, that's evolution. You learn how to work with it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you live in New Jersey. You're not even allowed to pump your own gas.
Yes, boy, isn't that terrible? That's why I gas up before I come to Philly. But you go those are non-threatening changes, I suppose. But the principle, I think, is still the same. What good can I get from this? In my world, how's this going to work for me? And like the sermon title, you said you get 5 sermon titles and choose one. That's great. Listen, just give me one. Whatever you give me, I'm happy because I've gone to the pulpit with no title whatsoever. So, you work with it.
Yeah, and because of all the time that I spent as a writer, an advertising writer in the ad business, I'm gonna tweak and fine tune. So I say, AI, ChatGPT, give me 5 different titles, and I'm not going to use any of the 5, but I'm going to use a little bit from this one, an inspiration from that one, an idea from the other, and I'll put together the one that I like myself, and I'm using it as input. But that's just the very tippy end of artificial intelligence. It's reading me back everything that's ever been written, having quantified it as to what it thinks might possibly be good. But the arbiter is me. Those are going to be my words. Let me use words that I would use.
When my husband and I went to seminary at the same time, and we were talking the other day about how we were in the stacks. and the you take a ladder and you go up and you find those old books and you're up there sneezing and getting dust all over your clothes because you were doing research. And that was, we felt so good about doing this. We actually learned it because you had to get a magnifying glass because the print was so tiny and the pages were torn. That was part of it. Now you go online, or like you said, AI will give us all of that. Now, does that mean that it's not legitimate? Because now you can get so much more information than we were able to get in 5 hours a night going up in the stacks sneezing. It's right at your fingertips. How can that not be good?
Because it's at your fingertips, and your fingertips are right here. If we're relying on what's delivered to our fingertips, we might miss the nuance and the depth. And I'm going to just give you this example before we take another break. Have you ever read the same book or the same passage more than once, and the 5th or the 10th or the 12th time through got something new out of it? Oh,
Sure. Oh, yeah.
yeah. Well, if you only got the fingertip stuff, you'd never get that. That nuance, that stuff that's hidden beneath the subtext. If it's just being summarized and giving you, the top line response, we can miss the depth.
But there's a way, and this is probably evolution, where evolution comes in. There is a way to study using AI, learning how to ask the questions and phrase, what do they call it? It'll come to me.
The prompts.
Yes, how to phrase the prompts. That will get you more of the nuances that you're talking about. I don't think it's good to just go in and say, give me this, and then you take this and that's it. I mean, I treat everything as though there's tons of stuff between the lines. And I'll take AI any day as opposed to going up in the stacks and sneezing.
Mm-hmm.
When we left seminary, we got a notice that they were getting rid of books in the library and so forth, and you could come and get as much as you wanted. And so, I'm going to tell you, we went up there with a U-Haul and we got all these books. It just had so many. And it was sort of like a badge of honor to have all these wonderful books.
Yeah.
Okay, so now a lot of that's online,
Yep.
and I got more room in my house.
Okay. Well, I have actually a homework assignment for you and for anybody else who's listening and wants to play along with this. And this is because you have, over the course of your 35 years in ministry, plus your precursor life, a pretty deep familiarity with the Bible. Mm-hmm. So I would like you to choose a passage from the Bible that you have found profound new meaning from, and then ask AI what it means. And see if you don't get what everybody else says it means. And see how many different ways that you can ask and how you have to refine the prompt so that it'll actually come close to what you've gleaned from it.
Oh.
You know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen.
I know. And I don't have to do the assignment either. While you were saying, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. All right. Well, just give it a try anyway. Just don't fight evolution so much.
Yeah. Well, with your inspiration, I'm actually teaching a class that's going to start in November on Learn to Do Healing Like Jesus. Because it says right there in Scripture how to do it. But according to conversations you and I have had, nobody thinks that's what it means. Well, not nobody.
Yeah, but you're going to open a lot of can of worms on why people don't do it that way.
I don't care. Whatever their reason is, it's fine. And I have some understanding, but that's not what the class is going to be about. It's
not fine. It is not fine. Because you missed the whole... Your class is going to be amazing, right? You missed the whole point in what Jesus was saying. It's like people take what Jesus said and wrap it all up in the things that are going on now, and it's based on your opinion and how you feel and political stuff. Come on, strip all that away.
All right. I knew it was easy to get you up on a soapbox,
Yeah,
but
listen,
this is one of your topics.
because Jesus was cooler than people think, right? He was cool for a whole lot of other reasons than people think, Nah, I'm going to leave that alone because then some people aren't going to speak to me if I say that. But
Jesus is cool, but not why you think. Okay.
not what
That's-
you think, or for
Well,
the
it's not why you think he's cool. All right. We'll make T-shirts like that. And in the meantime, we're going to take another break. And when we return, there will be a practical prayer that has something to do with evolving consciousness.
All right.
Get inspiration in an instant. God calls are the gentle and uplifting moment of truth to help you remember that the bright light of God's love is shining right now as you
It's your God Call with Reverend Bill.
start your 2-week free trial today, and you'll get a phone call 4 times a week from Reverend Bill with an uplifting half-minute message filled with insight, wisdom, story, and fun.
Let your light shine.
You can answer the call to listen to it live or let it go to voicemail so you can hear it later. After the free trial, your subscription is just $5.95 a month. The details are at godcall.org. God calls are disruptive, intentionally.
Whenever you write something, put on a gold star.
They take you away from your routine to remind you about the truth of who you really are. They come at random times between 8:15 a.m. and 6 p.m., so you won't be expecting them. And somehow, the message is exactly what you need to hear at the time.
Magic is loose in the world.
It's a moment of motivation in the middle of your day. Find out more and start your 2-week free trial now at godcall.org.
Welcome back to the Practical Prayer Podcast. I'm Carol, here with Reverend Dr. Bill Marchiony. This is better than I thought.
This was an amazing conversation about evolution and evolving consciousness. And as far as I'm concerned, has teed us up for a wonderful, right in the strike zone practical prayer. Because that, in a lot of ways, is what practical prayer is about. It's the technique that we can use when an experience that we've been having in our life is not to our liking, to be able to look at that, pivot, say, instead of having that experience, this is what I'd like to have instead, align with the infinite, and then invite that new experience in. It is a process that invites transformation. And the big thing that happens in there is an evolution in consciousness, because we've had the consciousness of the experience that we've been having. Whatever it is that's showing up in our life, it's because that's what we believe is appropriate or necessary or sufficient for us. And it is, and as long as we believe that that's okay, then it continues to happen for us because it's okay with us. And as soon as we set a new intention, as soon as we open to something different, then that same creative power that creates everything evolves our experience into something new. So the prayer is about evolving our consciousness to allow evolution to happen in our experience. And this works in any area of our life. Whatever is going on, whatever has got our attention that hasn't been working or that we think can be better or we prefer to have instead of talking about the problem, instead of saying, I don't want to be in a relationship like this, or I don't want to have my body feel like that, or I don't want to be having these sorts of financial concerns or relationship issues or stuckness in my life. Instead of talking about what we've had that we don't like, what do we want to have instead? What will that new experience look like? And more importantly, what will that new experience feel like? And as we are prepared to do that, we can release whatever that experience of the past has been. Let go of the locks and anchors that are keeping us attached to that. And open to the awareness of that infinite creative power, that divine love, that one source, the creative power that is in back of everything. That one source that has been sharing itself since the beginning of time. Whether you think that means God said, let there be light, and there was light. And since there was only God, the light came from God, and everything else has as well. Or the scientific explanation of the Big Bang, where that singularity started expanding and evolving and unfolding. 14.2 billion years later, here we are. That's evolution. They're both stories of evolution told in a different way. And the next step in evolution is not only possible, it's already happening. How that evolution happens, how that next step unfolds for each of us, is fluid and flexible. This is an infinite creative power that creates everything and can create anything. So as we acknowledge that divine power and presence that is within, and we let go of our attachment to things being the way that they have been, we're able to open ourselves up to that next new experience that we're inviting. And each of us is doing that in our own way. I invite everyone within the sound of my voice to identify that experience, that pivot of what has no longer, what no longer serves. What is it that we're ready to let go of, to move beyond, to transcend? And pivot away from that. What does that new experience feel like? What does that new experience look like? Invite in that experience. Breathe into that. Breathe in that new goodness, that uplift, that freshness. Breathe out whatever's stale and old and no longer necessary. And understand that we are in partnership with an infinite creative power. And that power is available and active and creating right now and always, and it's now creating this. As we turn towards the good that we're seeking, that good starts to fill our lives. It shows up in remarkable ways, some that are completely understandable, that we would have written down in a script ourselves if we were in charge. And other times it shows up in such a circuitous or sudden or unexpected way. It's just a reminder that that infinite creative power is always ready. It's always working. And I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the good. I'm grateful for the experience that each one is having. I'm grateful for the transformation. And I'm certainly grateful for the awareness of this creative process and for the ability for me to speak this word on behalf of each of us and to know without any question whatsoever that this good is already happening. The law is already responding. The stories are beginning to form, and we get to tell them and be them and share them. So with gratitude for all this good, I speak this word. And I speak it into that creative law, and I know it's already creating. And so it is.
The Practical Prayer Podcast with Reverend Bill Marchiony and Carol Lawrence is a production of BeTheLight.com,
be-the-light.com,
where you can find more information about practical prayer for real results.
Our theme is by Music of Wisdom. You can learn about the spiritual community of New Thought Philadelphia with daily guided meditations,
Weekly celebrations of spirit
and Reverend Bill's classes in practical spirituality
at newthoughtphilly.org.
That is the Practical Prayer Podcast for this week. That was lovely.
Yeah,
I like that one.
I think it was good.
Yeah. Good topic. Good comeback topic for us to return with.
Tell you, I found my notes, and I thought, I thought I said, you had a lot going on. What was it? But anyway, it was good. So your Thursday class, I wish I could come. I've got myself into a lot, but anyway.
Oh yeah, I rearranged the classes. I'm pretty sure that the class is going to be on Tuesdays now. So yeah, let me just double check. Is it? When is it? Oh, I'm looking at next year. That explains why it's not there. Yeah, November 12th is where the class starts, 11/12. It's going to be Tuesday evenings, 4 Tuesdays. And the Beyond Limits class is not going to be happening this fall.
So you're
See?
going to be talking about what Jesus...
Learn to do healing like Jesus. Yep.
Interesting.
Because he said you can do it.
Yeah.
He was wandering around doing miracles and doing healings, and he said, and I quote, "All this I do, you can do, and more."
Yes.
Okay, and I think as I interpret that, it means that we can do what he did.
I agree with you. 100%.
Okay, and based on evolution, we could do better, which is pretty amazing because those are some pretty cool stories.
Yes. I mean, yeah, okay, I guess if with evolution you could do better, but I mean, how much better can you be if you use the principles and the thoughts and what Jesus used to heal. Healing is healing. You know, you're
That's right.
glad to get up out of this thing.
He very specifically pointed out that there's not a limitation. All this I do, you can do, and more.
And when you look specifically at each thing, there is he teaches. You know, he might not say do this first, and this first, but I found knowing Jesus as a person, a human person, and then relating that way, the things that he taught were much easier to understand and relate to. And I find that people don't want to relate to Jesus as a person. It's better that he's God, so then you don't have to worry about whether you're going to fail on doing what he did. You know, but that's just me. I think Jesus was real clear, and why would he say you could do these things if you could not?
Right. And
Yeah,
I think
watch
there's
carefully and listen.
there's an inherent fear that people have. It's like, okay, if I learn to do this healing technique that Jesus used, and I try it, and it doesn't work, then it's on me. Whereas previously, it was on Jesus. Jesus didn't want me to have it. God didn't want me to have it.
Yeah.
So we lose that that credit and blame escape hatch that's sometimes so helpful for people.
There's, you know, and I get it, yeah, because if it doesn't happen, I remember back in when the faith healers were really big on TV, and I won't call names because it might be somebody's favorite faith healer, but they would do these things, and people would say, well, it didn't work because you didn't have enough faith. So you were blaming you were the cause of whatever the magic that didn't happen. It was your fault. And people would really dislike the faith healers for that. But I just felt like this. When you see the faith healers at work, you're really just seeing an abbreviation of what's really going on. It's like watching a TV show. You miss the rehearsals. You don't see the script. You don't see everything that goes on behind the scenes that makes this possible. Now, I'm not saying fake. I'm saying, let's just hypothetically, let's just say that each one of them was 100% authentically real and true. But what you saw was not everything that went into making it happen, because you don't have time. You
Right.
don't have time. There was study. There was meditation. There was subconscious beliefs, and all of that stuff was working.
All that stuff is in there, yeah. And if I go to somebody who can do healing like Jesus, and I go in believing that if I touch the hem of their garment, I'm going to be healed, then I will. And if I go in being skeptical and doubtful, and they say, just touch the hem of my garment, you'll be healed, and I go, no, I won't. Then I won't. Then I won't. And it's not, it has nothing to do with the hem, it has nothing to do with the garment or anything else. It's all, it's an inside game.
But in all fairness to the church folks, there was a lot the hem of the garment thing. Okay, there's a lot in that's not in the Bible, like right there on the page. So people would say, well, if I touch it, it's not going to happen. There was a lot of mindset stuff going on, things
Yeah.
that people believed about that's left out of the story. So it's just so much.
There's a lot.
I think, yeah. So I'm going to listen. My hat's off to you for taking it on. You go for it. That's great.
Yeah, I'm definitely, and I'm doing it online. I'm doing it on Zoom. And part of it is because I can open myself up to a broad audience. And quite frankly, part of it is so that I'm not at a known physical location when it's happening. Because I'm okay with people yelling at me.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. All right.
Okay.
That is the Practical Prayer Podcast on New Thought Media Network. Thank you to the folks who are joining us now. Again, if you have a question or comment and you're watching the recording, you can go to bethelight.com, be-the-light.com, like it says over there. And we'd be happy to, you can put in your questions or comments or suggestions in the little button there, and we'll take it up with you. And in the meantime, have a spectacular day and week and so forth. And we'll be back here again on New Thought Media Network next Monday. Woohoo!
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.